Welcome to Avant-garde Entrepreneur. I have missed you and am so glad to be back together with you. I hope you had a wonderful holiday season shared with people that you love. Taking 2 weeks off is literally the best medicine I could have ever given myself, and I hope that you took a little time for yourself as well. Today, we are kicking off 2024, and we're beginning with a quote from Dr. Joe Dispenza. Dr. Joe says, "We are all faced with great opportunities, brilliantly disguised as impossible situations." How true is that? Today on the podcast, I'm going to share a little reflection of 2023, give you the inside scoop on what's coming up in 2024, and tips for a sustainable start to your year. So first, a little reflection on 2023. I'm big on reflection, guys. It's really what keeps me in a good place instead of just checking box after box of accomplishing things and never feeling fulfillment. I guess as you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I encourage you to take an hour or so, pop in your earbuds, and take a trip down memory lane 2023 for yourself. Look at your pictures on your phone or your journal and do a little reflection for yourself. And I think you'll be surprised at how far you've come and how many really wonderful things happened in your year in 2023. And if you'd like some tips on reflection, I talked about that way back in episode 20. You can go back and listen to that. But this just is, it's so important to take time to reflect because we really make a lot more progress than we realize when we look at it over the year. I want to thank the incredible podcast and YouTube guests we had on the show in 2023. It was such an honor to introduce you to my coaches, advisors, trusted friends, service providers, experts, and people who believe in me and have been very generous in helping me get this off the ground so that I could help you. Last year was really an incredible mix of episodes. Jacob Froats talked about marketing. John Geiwitz talked about getting your finances right. Stephen Ross talked about sales. Sharon Williams talked about living a life of service. Then we also heard from social entrepreneurs Aisha Bello from Nigeria, David Wampamba from Uganda, and Joseph Pierre, who is basically a global citizen from all over the place. Dr. King talked about his perspective as an educator in the history of social enterprise and biggest trends on where it's headed. We also had an incredible investment readiness series with Don Simmons and Jeff Schaefer, who both talked about how to get your social enterprise investment ready. And then we started wrapping up the year with a new Groove of Business series where both Ginny Saraswati and Kathleen Seeley, who are two of my coaches, talked about different ways of kind of releasing the pressure valve that the pressure that you put on yourself so that you can really just be more of who you are. And then we finished up the year with an incredible opportunity to learn about shop donation, which is really a great tool, whether you are a consumer or a social entrepreneur. So if any of those resonate with you, you can go back and pretty easily find those and those in the recordings. That's one of the good parts about doing 2 episodes a month instead of every week. They're a little easier to find. And also what's really easy is you can listen to them on the website. So you can basically just go to the website, trishabaileyphd.com/podcast and bookmark the specific podcast page so that you can listen to it on the go. And also YouTube. Super easy, really easy to see them there as well. Also in 2023, we welcomed the second cohort of Avant-garde Entrepreneur Ambassadors. It was such a joy to get to know Cosma, Helen, Sharoon, Prince, Godwin, and Jamie. We held lots of free workshops and masterclasses. One thing I'll do differently in 2024 than 2023 is I will worry less. In the kickoff to 2023, episode 24, I had talked about how to crush the barriers to business success. And in 2022, I had really been stuck kind of on the how of things, especially toward the end of the year and how they were going to get done, how they were going to come together. So you could check out that episode for tips on letting go of the how. I'll link to it in the show notes. But yet in 2023, as I look back, even though I had let go of the how, I still worried about what would happen once the how came to be. And that worry did not serve me because everything I worried about turned out exponentially better than I could have imagined. And I realize now how much time I wasted on the worry. And I see what it is now, though. It's living in survival mode for so long, not knowing when the next problem is going to happen, when the next mess is going to be made. And I guess you know exactly what I'm talking about. I wouldn't say that I had anxiety, which is trying to predict the future, but I was certainly in protection mode, self-protection mode, trying to control my environment and protect myself. And if you live like that long enough, it just becomes part of who you are. What I've learned, though, is I changed my energy, and a lot of what no longer aligned with the new vibe that I was carrying around, it just fell away. And I had recognized that I was living in survival mode. Also, I've learned that if I'm growing, the solution or the answer to the challenge that I'm facing is going to come in a way that I never expected because I'm a different person. And if it came in the way that I expected, that would mean that I was the same. And who wants that? In 2023, I also got a lot of coaching to help me bridge the gap from where I was to where I wanted to go. So a huge thanks to my coaches, Sean Miner, Ginny Saraswati, and the Ginny Media team, and Kathleen Seeley and her massively human leadership team of Natalie, Veronica, Carson, and Alex. You got to meet Ginny in episode 44 and Kathleen in 45. And thanks to all of them, as well as the 10 City Impact team for marketing and digital media, Kayla for all the behind the scenes, and for Uncle John for supporting me all the way and understanding that look on my face when I zone out because an idea has come to mind to share with you. So we have a lot of exciting things coming up in 2024. It has been a year of planting seeds. So now the seeds are starting to pop out of the ground. So first, podcast refresh. Thanks to the Ginny Media team, we have a new look and new music. Second, we have a website refresh. Thanks to Sean Miner for the formatting and for B and the 10 City Impact team for taking my mock-ups and making magic out of them. Third, we recorded a lot of video and audio in the past few years, and now Kayla, B, and I are going to be really building out the blog as well as compiling reading lists and playlists so that you can easily find what you need and the support that you need for where you are in this stage of your journey. Fourth, we are adding a super cool feature to the website where you can basically ask me about anything I've talked about on the podcast or in a free masterclass or that's written in a blog, and I can give you the answer immediately. Super cool stuff. Fifth, we are launching a sponsorship program where we'll be able to extend our coaching and our in-person training capacity, where we bring the team to you and your teams. And this is really all because of Natalie on Kathleen's team, as well as Veronica, Carson, and Alex. And sixth, some super big news. I am co-authoring a book with Jack Canfield, the author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series of books, as well as the Success Principles. And I'll be sharing more about that as we go through the process. We're shooting for a July-August 2024 publication date, but I can tell you that when I met Jack in November 2022, I would never dream today, 1 year later, that I would be writing a book with him. So it's really amazing how you plant the seeds. It seems like nothing is happening for so long, and then they just sprout and all kinds of new growth happens. So as you can see, I may be the face, but there's a whole army behind me propelling me forward. Why? Because they believe in you and your role in changing the world and creating sustainable economic development for all of us. This is why I'm such a proponent of getting coaching, determining your core genius and delegating the rest. And I would never be anywhere if it wasn't for my team. This year on the podcast, we are focusing on helping you build strong, sustainable businesses. You have the social part down. You love your beneficiaries and it pours out effortlessly. Based on what Dr. King shared in episodes 39 and 40, what Don Simmons shared in 42, and Jeff Schaefer in 43, focusing on the business side of your social enterprise or impact business is where we need to go. So the guest list and my solo episodes in 2024 will all be geared toward getting your business tightened up so that you can be ready for anything, whether that's an emergency, a sale, investment, or a merger. And let's hope it's not for an emergency. But even if you plan to never sell or stop being a social entrepreneur, by acting as if you're setting yourself up for having the social enterprise of your dreams that impacts thousands, generates a profit, and leaves you with something left of yourself at the end of the day. And now, my tips for a sustainable start to your year or your week, depending on when you're listening to this episode. You'll see that what I'm about to share with you, you'll see that these are threaded through all of the victories of 2023 that have set me up for 2024. And these are also common themes for our guests. So I'm excited to share these with you. Number one, become an energetic match for what you want, not what you don't want. Number two, be on the lookout for opportunities for coaching. Number three, develop a habit of quiet time. Number four, determine your core genius and delegate the rest. Okay, let's dive into each of these. Tip number one, become an energetic match for what you want, not what you don't want. I could teach a 2-day workshop on this tip, but I'm going to try to at least give you the highlights of really what it means to you. It basically goes back to what you put out in the world comes back to you. Some call this karma, but there's actually a scientific explanation. When you don't have what you want, or you're just not into something, as we say, I'm just not feeling it, it's likely that you're not currently operating at the right frequency for that thing. I'm going to say it again. It's likely that you're not currently operating at the right frequency for that thing. So I'm italicizing the word currently and frequency because I'm going to dive into some details on these. From a physics perspective, the current is the rate at which energy passes through a circuit. So current creates a magnetic field. And what does a magnet do? A magnet attracts similar particles to itself. Therefore, what you are currently in your mind is what you are attracting to yourself. Now, frequency is measured in hertz, and this is the number of cycles that a thing vibrates at per second. Everything, tangible and intangible, it has a frequency. Some are high frequencies, some are low. Another word we might use for frequency is vibration. So frequency is the vibration a thing puts off or operates at. So higher frequencies have a higher vibration. That's the reason why our vibes and the vibes of other things around us, that's why they matter, because whatever vibe you're currently operating in is what you're going to attract more of because of the magnetic field. So whether it's a high vibe or low vibe, whatever you're operating at is what you're going to attract more of. You may have heard of the fruits of the Spirit. So the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Well, Dr. David R. Hawkins developed the emotional frequency chart, and the fruits of the Spirit, especially love, joy, peace, and compassion. These are some of the highest frequency emotions, ranging from like 500 to 700 hertz. On the other hand, feelings like doubt, shame, frustration, and guilt, these are the lowest frequency emotions, from like 150 hertz down to 20 hertz, with shame, that feeling of shame being the lowest. What this means is that when we feel joy, we get more of it. When we feel frustration, we get more of that. The key is that just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean you have to stay that way. It's all energy. You literally have the power to change your own frequency, your own vibe by thought alone. And you don't have to wait to win an award, to get a new client, to get a difficult person to disappear from your life, or to get a shout out on social. You can raise your vibe by thinking a better feeling thought. So try it. Try it now. Close your eyes and think of the word happy. If happy is not your first language, think of your native language equivalent. Happy. Take a deep breath. Eyes still closed, and think of it again. Did you catch yourself beginning to smile by chance? Is your heart beating a little faster? Congratulations. You just changed your own vibe. You changed what you are currently experiencing. You changed what you're attracting into your life. And that's about as simple as I can explain it. You have the power to attract more of what you want into your life by aligning your energy with it. Tip number 2, be on the lookout for opportunities for coaching. Virtually every single guest from 2023 mentioned the value of coaching in their lives and career. For me, every major trajectory shift from last year and all my other years is because of receiving coaching. That doesn't mean that I Google search for it. What it means is that I wasn't necessarily consciously thinking, okay, I need to learn how to do this. But it does mean that I was aware of when something kind of came across that I didn't know how to do, but I knew that I was called to do it, or I sensed that there was something in me that needed to change to get me to where I wanted to go. I'd just be more aware. The answer is always out there. We just need to slow down long enough to see it or sense it. For example, the sponsorship program that I mentioned, I knew that a capital raise was the next step for scaling our impact, but I had no idea what it would look like, much less how to do it effectively. And I've been on the receiving end of pitches, but I've never actually been a pitchee when it comes to in terms of raising capital. And within a few weeks of this revelation, I received an email from Kathleen, who was offering a new program. I thought, okay, this is either a distraction or it's the answer. So I hopped on a call with Kathleen, and it turned out that the new program she was offering, it wasn't necessarily the answer, but it wasn't a distraction either. She had someone uniquely qualified to help me develop the sponsorship program. Enter Natalie. In 2 months, I went from having no idea where to begin to having a fully developed program, including the deck, the brochure, the payment pages, quite solid on the messaging. Got a little more internal work to do on that because I'm so passionate about it. My words don't always come out clearly. My guess is you know what I'm talking about with that too. But it was late August, early September when I realized that the capital raise was in my near future. And it had actually come up in my goal planning for September, October, and November. And remember, big things tend to happen for me in September. By mid-September, I had the call with Kathleen. By September 19th or 26th, I had my first session with Natalie. And as of November 30th, it was pretty much all done. So 2 months, basically, from realizing the need to having a resolution. The alternative was me wrestling with it on my own. With all the things that come up, I'm almost certain that it still wouldn't be in place by September 2024 if I hadn't gotten help. And here's the thing too, Natalie didn't specialize in capital raises. It's not like she had a cookie cutter program. She was very upfront about that. But what she did have was a passion to help you. And she has known me for some time. And while she didn't understand it all, she had a heart for impact entrepreneurs like you, and has the business savvy to help me put something together that aligned with my personality, gifts, and energy. So here's the question. Do you have everything you want? If no, then likely you're ready for some coaching in that area of your life. So be on the lookout for that opportunity. And if there's something specific that you know you need, send me a LinkedIn message. I know a lot of people out there who would love to help you in your impact business get yourself to the next level. Tip number 3, develop a habit of quiet time daily. All the guests from 2023 spoke of this too. Before you check your phone, quiet time is literally where all my inspiration comes from. All the fresh ideas come in the morning after my body has been resting and my subconscious has been working. You wake up in the same energy that you go to sleep in. So if you're falling asleep and you're thinking of all the things that you're grateful for, you're going to wake in a state of gratitude. If you fall asleep dreading all the things you've got to do the next day, you're going to wake with that same dread hanging over you. And also, what you consume 45 minutes before sleep is what you'll ruminate on all night long in your subconscious. So, what to do in quiet time? I have a simple formula to share with you. And I've shared this before, but I'm going to share it again because it works so well. Gratitude, growth, guidance. Here's a short explanation for each. So, gratitude, reflect on the victories from the day before and give thanks for them. Think of what you learned from them and, what does this mean? What does this mean for me going forward? Growth. What are your next opportunities to grow and learn? What is it that you need for this next season of your life? The person who got you here today is not the same version of you who will get you there, wherever there is. Guidance. And you can ask for guidance. So trust me, clarity around the difficult conversations you need to have with an employee, a new program for your beneficiaries, that doesn't come at 2 p.m. when you're dealing with calls, emails, WhatsApp messages. It's not an energetic match. So now that you can change your energy, but it's going to be a lot easier to get that clarity in the morning when you're naturally more clear versus trying to force it in the afternoon. And developing a habit of daily quiet time, it makes all the difference in your business. And notice I say develop. This means sneak up on yourself and add it in so gradually that your body doesn't even realize you've made the change. So start with one day for 10 minutes, then add in another day, maybe 12 minutes, then go to 3 days, days a week, then 5, and eventually your spirit will crave it and you'll not know how you ever lived without it. Tip number 4, determine your core genius and delegate the rest. This one will make you feel like you've been hooked up to an oxygen tank, like new life has been breathed into you. Your core genius, these are the few things that you're uniquely gifted for, that you love so much and feel so good about doing that you do it without ever charging people for it. It's fun, effortless, and life-giving. Jack Canfield talks about this in the Success Principles. It's so simple to discover your core genius, and it can be kind of what kicks you off with your quiet time habit as you start to develop that. So here's a little project for you. Make a list of all the stuff you do on a daily or monthly basis. And yet it's going to be long. It's going to be a very, very long list. If something that you write down makes you feel really good as you write it, if you sense kind of a smile start to form on your face as you write it, put a star by it. I suggest doing it this way because if you're like me, most of the things I was doing did not make me feel good or raise my vibe when I went through this exercise. Once you get your list going, don't worry, you can always come back to it and add things onto it later, but look at your stars. For each star, ask yourself, can someone else do this? Likely, your initial response will be something like, no, only I can do that. Well, ask again. The first time I did this exercise for myself, it wasn't anything I read in a book. It was just something that I felt like I needed to do for myself. It just seemed like the next logical thing to do. I did it in September 2021. I had 93 major headings on my list of the things that I was doing. Only 9 were things that I could do and I really enjoyed. 4 were things that I was best at but didn't like. 79 things I was doing on a regular basis were things that I wasn't exceptionally good at nor liked doing. So 10%. That means I was spending 90% outside of my life, outside my zone of genius and my core genius. What a waste. Oh my gosh. So once I wrote it down, the solution to delegating about 60 to 70% came within 2 months. And the solution involved people who love doing the things that I either didn't like or wasn't naturally gifted at. And I quickly began to love those people for the color they brought into my life and for taking things that sucked the life out of me and just making them beautiful. Malcolm Forbes, he's the publisher of Forbes magazine. So I think you could all agree he's seen quite a few successful people in his life. He said, "Success follows doing what you want to do. There is no other way to be successful." Entrepreneurs spend an average of 30% of their time in their core genius or their unique abilities. And typically, by the time the business is launched, the entrepreneur is doing everything but the one thing that they started their business for in the first place. My friend, you are a force for good on our planet, and we need you out there changing lives and doing what you love. We can't have you overwhelmed or burned out, and determining your core genius and delegating the rest is key. I promise there is someone waiting for you to trust them enough for you to ask them for your help. Okay, as a recap, here are my 4 tips for getting you off to a sustainable start this year or this week, depending on when you're listening. These are tips, not trends. Let me make that clear. These will never go out of style. Number 1, become an energetic match to what you want, not what you don't want. Number 2, be on the lookout for opportunities for coaching. Number 3, develop a habit of daily quiet time. Number 4, determine your core genius and delegate the rest. How easy are these? Are you excited to try one? Send me a LinkedIn message to let me know which one you started with.